Greetings, music fans. My name is Benjamin Croft, and welcome to BC's Vinyl Odyssey, an A to Z through some of my favorite albums in my collection. So in this series of videos, I'm going to be talking about the album's original vinyl releases. I won't be talking about the current remastered, pressed on super heavyweight, 780, thick as a brick vinyl, where the packaging is made from recycled vegan Andrix toilet paper. There's plenty of information for that on the interweb out there already. So without further ado, cue the titles. Well, today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite bands, Alcatrazz. Alcatrazz, I hear you all cry. Who the hell are Alcatrazz? Well, Alcatrazz were an amazing hard rock metal band that had elements of prog, and they featured one of my favorite singers of all time, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Graham Bonnet. In 1979, Graham Bonnet featured on Down to Earth by Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. But due to numerous fallouts with Ritchie Blackmore, the two soon went their separate ways, and the singer departed the band. Rainbow continued with singer Joe Lynn Turner. Eager to stay in the same genre as Rainbow, singer Graham Bonnet formed Alcatrazz with Jimmy Waldo on keyboards, Gary Shea on bass, and Jano Wiener on drums. They signed a deal with Rockshire Records and recruited guitar virtuoso Yngwie Malmsteen. They then went into the studio to record their debut, No Parole for Rock and Roll. So this is the first Japanese pressing of No Parole for Rock and Roll. We've got this insert here with some nice band photos. We've got some information in Japanese, which I can't read. We've got some lyrics for the song Hiroshima Mon Amour in English. The record was originally mastered at Sheffield Lab Matrix in Santa Monica, California. It's a thin sounding record, really, kind of trebly and bright with hardly any bass. It really doesn't pack the punch that a heavy rock record should do. I've compared this Japanese pressing to a European pressing as well, and it's very similar sounding. So I think the problem probably was to do with the production. The European release is a bit harder edged than the Japanese. It still has a lot of detail, but it's very smooth. I think you've heard the phrase big in Japan, because I really think that Kenny G was huge in Japan, because the EQ choices and the mastering choices of this really would suit a smooth jazz release. The band later went on to record and release a live album called Life Sentence, but all was not well between Graham and Yngwie. Guitarist Yngwie Malmsteen grabbed Graham Bonnet by the throat one night after his show, pressing hard on his vocal cords, trying to kill him. The young guitarist was soon removed from the band. Following the departure of Yngwie Malmsteen, the band recruited ex-Frank Zappa guitarist Steve Vai, who had recently recorded his first solo album, Flexible, released in January 1984. It was discovered that the owners of Rockshire Records had been embezzling millions of dollars and were arrested. The band signed a new deal with Capitol Records and brought on legendary engineer and producer Eddie Kramer, famous for his work with Jimi Hendrix, the Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin. They went into the studio in 1984 at Cherokee Studios in California and recorded Disturbing the Peace. Disturbing the Peace was eventually released February 26, 1985. The album spent 7 weeks on the US Billboard charts, peaking at 145. The album really packs a punch with a huge soundstage. How many of you recognize this phrase? Well, you would have heard it on the track Wire and Wood from Disturbing the Peace. You would have also heard it on Steve Vai's album Flexible in the track Little Green Men, and then on his album Passion and Warfare in the track Answers. All the songs on Disturbing the Peace are credited to Graham Bonnet and Steve Vai, and you can almost think of this album as a Steve Vai solo album. His guitars are so prevalent. So let's take a look at the actual vinyl and the packaging. Well, some of the albums we're going to talk about in this series have got really incredible art that I could literally stare at, like days and months, years even. I mean, I could probably stare at this cover for like minutes. So yeah, I wouldn't call this one of the most inspiring album covers, but I really do like the font there for the band Alcatrazz. As you can see, well, hopefully you can see, we've got kind of like a a prison bar motif on this. Yeah, I'm actually not sure who designed that, but I probably wouldn't hire him to do my album cover. The inner, we've got one of these card inners. Now, a word of advice here: if I would not advise you to keep your vinyl in this, because this is how a lot of records get scuffed. So I would advise you to take your vinyl out and keep it in something with a nice kind of lined inner. We're in the mid-80s now, so quality control is slipping slightly. It's not like now when I mentioned before where we've got like recycled, you know, Bulgarian unicycles jock straps for album covers, but it's thinner than something you might get in the 70s, but still pretty good quality. So now let's take a look at the actual vinyl itself. This is the first UK pressing. You can tell this by this multicolored rim. There was a later release that had a darker rim. Originally it was mastered by George Marino at Sterling Sound, and if you look around here, this center we call the dead wax, it would have had a Sterling stamped on it. So anyone out there in vinyl land that owns the US and the UK version, I'd be very interested to know if there is a difference in sound. This UK version was manufactured by EMI Records. Having said that, it really does sound great. It's got a huge sound stage, plenty of bass, plenty of punch. So before I sum up, we're going to have a quick word from this week's sponsor. Thank you, Shiva the Cat, this week's sponsor. Now, if someone put a gun to my head and said, pick a favorite track, I would have to pick the track Desert Diamond. This track really inspired me recently and actually inspired me to write a song that's going to be on my forthcoming solo album. Now, if you want to buy a copy of Disturbing the Peace and you went on eBay or Discogs or online, it's probably going to cost you for a good near mint copy around £20 or $20, depending where you are. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I've really enjoyed making it, and there's going to be many more videos to come. So I would like to now bid you a good day.